What's up, ladies and gentlemen? First of all, this is my first time ever in Montreal. Thank you, it's been a very warm welcome, and I have to just say, I'm actually really pleasantly surprised in a really good way. I didn't know what I was coming into. I've been to events before where they're like, oh come, there's gonna be like 500 people there, 1,000 people there, there's 7. And so, if you would not mind, for Hugo, Antoine, Jennifer, everybody here that has made a big part of making this happen, will you please give everyone a round of applause? Now, I actually resonated a lot with Jen when she started, because she started in a way that I like to start. And she was like, I want to feel the audience, and I want to, not literally, by the way. I don't think that's what she meant. But I like to, let's find out what we're going to talk about type of a thing. So, I want to just see what comes up and just be real and talk about some stuff, especially around money. That's what we're going to talk about more specifically. But I don't have like a set presentation. And we'll just see what comes through and what we can do to support you. But just so I know a little bit of context, if you wouldn't mind, just to make sure I know the hands are working and everything, who here is from Canada?
Yes.
Beautiful. Sweet. And just context of who here follows people on social media? Who here knows who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
Yes.
Okay, fuck yeah. That's what I was looking for, making sure I could say that. Sweet. Okay, so I think that gives me a little bit of context. So, let's start here. We're going to talk about something that is so important that for some reason we are afraid to talk about it. Somehow, it's, at least in my upbringing in the States, it's become super taboo. We shame people over it. We're like, you can't talk to this about somebody else. And it's not even religion, it's not even sex. You know, it's stuff that we use all the time. And for some reason, it's a bad thing to talk about. So what is that thing? Money. Money and personal finances. And why am I talking about it at a conference like this? This isn't just a business class. And we're not going to do it in a business classy way. This is why I wanted to talk about it here. When Antoine first reached out to me and was like, I think you'd actually be perfect for this audience, the thing that made me excited was realizing that this wasn't just an event for Instagram influencers. We weren't going to have like chicks with a couple million followers coming up and saying, so to get all your followers, you gotta get this string and like really get that shot in. Like that's really popular right now, and that's how you're gonna become an influencer. Like, I'm glad it wasn't that. He's like, no, it's to everybody's an influencer. Everybody has an impact to make on this world. And that really started to fire me up, because this is what I know about money. They say money's not everything. I want to say, actually, if you're an entrepreneur and you're an influencer, it is. It kind of is. And if it's not everything, it at least touches everything in your life. And this isn't an opinion anymore. We have data. We have research and case studies that show that, for example, money affects your relationships. I don't know if anybody's heard this, but did you know that when people get divorced, like 70-something% cite money as one of the leading causes? Crazy, right? We also have data now. Anybody here, I know we have a few generations here, who here is a millennial? Just curious. Okay. And who here is above the millennial range? I know I've seen a few of you. Awesome. Sweet. So, those of you that are above the millennial range, there's research that's been published now in Time Magazine and other places that show that that money worries doesn't just affect your relationships, it also affects your mental health. But you know, want to know what it also does? It also affects your productivity. So it creates this crazy like cycle where you are in a bad place, you need to get in a better place, but you can't because you have money worries and you end up getting completely fucked. If you're a millennial, you are twice as likely to be negatively impacted due to money worries. Pretty wild, right? So that's what I think we should start the conversation there and see what we can do to shift that. Because I'm of the belief that the solutions that we've been given from our well-meaning older generations that give us money advice from like CNN money or anything in school is outdated, that does not work in today's time. And we're also getting information that just doesn't work when we live in a time where things are so fast and we have different types of tools. So maybe there's a way we can share time-tested principles, but in a new generation. Cool? So where did mine start? Where this passion, I guess, if you want to talk about that, started for me, was a few years ago. My wife came up to me, and it was a crazy conversation because I wasn't expecting it. And she said, "It's showing two lines." Has any dude or guy ever heard of this? Women already know what I'm talking about. She said, "It's showing two lines," and I was like, "Showing two lines? What are you talking about? What's showing two lines?" And she shows me this stick. Anybody in here know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right? So that was the day that I found out we were pregnant. And that would be a time that you would think you should be really happy about that, right? Like, you're growing, you're gonna have somebody that looks like you know? And you're gonna get to make the world a better place and all that type of stuff. But truthfully, I was scared out of my mind. And why? I'm a young dude, just graduated college. Why was I scared out of my mind? Because that was the day that I had to get real with my financial situation for the first time in my life. And I knew that it wasn't in a good place. I didn't know how bad it was. So with a baby on the way, I started digging, and I found out that I was $53,000 in debt with a newborn on the way. So you can see why I was fucking crazy, right? Out of my mind. And where did that come from? Like, I was got in this place where I was so freaking frustrated. I was like, I just graduated college. I'm a first generation college kid. I'm the only person in my family that's ever graduated college. I went to school for business and all this stuff. Like, I'm working, I'm in sales. How did this happen? How did I get to this place? Is it ever going to get fixed? And Jen mentioned something in my bio that I just want to clear up because she wasn't joking. She said, Calvin's somebody that can barely remember all his siblings' names. That's kind of true. I can actually remember every single one of them. But the truth is, that is the number one question I get. So let's talk about where I come from. You heard Salt Lake City, right? Well, I'm from Arizona, but I'm originally from Salt Lake City. And I don't know if that brings anything up for anyone, but I actually grew up in Mormon polygamy. And this is something that I have barely started sharing. This is the second stage in my life that I've actually ever shared this story on. And the first time I ever stepped foot inside of a public school was when I was 20 years old. Because I was homeschooled my entire life. Great childhood, great upbringing. But again, I had one dad, 4 moms, and get this. So by the way, I'm not joking, you heard that right. 1 dad, 4 moms, all in the same house. We all grew up in the same house. And guess how many brothers and sisters I had? I wanted just like some random number. Somebody said 20? Holy shit, that's a lot. 19. Holy crap, I'm hearing a lot of good numbers here. Okay, somebody's been on my Instagram. Okay. I am one of 45 kids. you can see Jen wasn't joking, right? Why people wonder, can you remember all their names? What was that like? Holy shit, 45 in the same house? Yeah, wrap your head around that shit, right? 1 to 45, so there were some perks to it. I mean, obviously you were never alone, you know? You always had friends around, you know, best friends that were yours. You had brothers that were 2 months older than you know, stuff like that. You had enough siblings that, like for a sports team, all of them, you know? You had more siblings than there are days in the month, you know? Like, you have like a month and a half's worth of birthdays, if they're all lined up, right? Crazy, right? Now here's the thing. When I went to college, this was all normal. Like, literally, I can't even explain to you like what it was like to take that first kind of step out of that bubble. Because I mentioned, I'm a first generation college kid. Nobody in my family before or since has gone to college. And all of this is backstory of, because I think it's important to know the discovery process and where this has all come from. And so people ask me all the time is, bro, like if you were in this bubble, like how did you get out of it? Like even ideologically, like how did you shift your mindset to step out? I remember the freaking day that the crack happened. Like the crack in the entire thing. And it was when I did something very, very, very dangerous. I don't know if anybody's ever been to college. Maybe, a few of you. Has anybody taken an elective? So I took a really dangerous elective. And the elective was a philosophy class. And a couple other things. Has anybody heard of the movie The Matrix? Yes. Heard this? Sweet. Has anybody heard of a guy named Plato? Yes. Plato, Socrates, and stuff like that? Okay, sweet. Then you'll get this story, because it's cool. Dude, it's the day my life changed forever. So this philosophy class, what made it really fun, is the entire class was based on the movie The Matrix, right? Like, we're in the Matrix. And if you don't think we're in the Matrix, how do you know that we're not in the Matrix, right? How do you know that you're just not a freaking in a petri dish and you're plugged into something right now? How the fuck do you know, right? You don't know, right? But then one day, we were told a story from Plato, because the movie The Matrix was actually based on a story of Plato's called the Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Has anybody ever heard of Plato's Allegory of the Cave? Sweet, a few of you. For the rest of you, I'll tell you how it goes, because this is what my professor said, and this is where everything changed. So, how it goes is, in the story of Plato's Allegory of the Cave, all these people are inside of a cave, and they're like chained to chairs. So imagine you're in a cave right now, in a hard-ass chair like you're on right now, and the only difference is you're chained. You can't get up, right? And now, are these people sad, do you think? No, why would they be? Why would they be? That's all they know, right? So they're not sad. In fact, they're sitting in these chairs chained, and the only thing they see, the thing that gets them excited, is when some point in the afternoon, these shadows show up on the wall, right? And these shadows are like going to freaking Disneyland to them. Like they're sitting there, they're having a podcast in the day, talking about like the shadows and what they mean. They're having shadow conspiracies and all that, like all that type of stuff. Then one day, one of those people breaks free somehow from the chains. And he does something crazy. Whoa, that's me. But he looked behind him and realized these shadows that he's seeing on the wall, like this, there's like shapes, different shapes. And let's say there's like a shape of a tree. He turned around and realized that this shadow was actually a shape of a tree. Like somebody was holding up a shape in front of a flame, and that's what was causing the shadow. It was like mind-fucking explosion to this guy. Because the shadow, you need to understand, that was his whole reality. Right? There was nothing more. And what ended up happening is after he saw that tree, he then did something really crazy. He left the cave. And that's where his entire reality exploded forever. He saw the sun for the first time, he could barely look at it, and then if he thought shadows were cool, and then thought that the shape of something that looked like a tree was cool, then he saw a real tree. So talk about, he had this insane identity crisis. Scared the living hell out of him. Because what do you think just happened to this guy? His entire reality of what was true broke from under him. Everything that he thought was real was not even close. And it scared him like crazy. But then after that foundation shook, and he started to notice what he was seeing, it became very beautiful, actually. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so much more than I thought there was. And then he reflects to where he was. Oh my gosh, I thought shadows were cool. I think, this is amazing. And he realizes all these truths, and he's looking around, exploring and learning. So much amazingness. Then what do you think he wanted to do with his friends after he learned all this? Yes. Somebody said tell him. He wanted to go back and tell them, right? Tell them how much amazing this is. And after he goes back to them, he's like, by the way, these shadows are nothing. Like, you don't even know what you're looking at. Like, there's something way more. What do you think they wanted to do to him? Yeah, they wanted to kill him. Why? Because they're like, what? You want to take away our shadows? That's the best thing ever. Like, no, that's the best part of our life. There's no way. And how the story ends, kind of gruesomely, is kill him, they did. So we were told that story in philosophy. And it was like, whoa, cool story, bro. My professor was a female, but she called herself dude and bro, so like, that's insane. But then she asked us this question, and this is what changed it for me. She was like, okay, here's the story. Now, who are you in the story? Who are you? Can you honestly say that you're someone that is leaving the cave? You're seeking truth. You're seeking something even if it's uncomfortable. The sun represented truth and light, even if it's hard to look at. But because it's real and it's in reality. Or how do you know that right this moment, you're not just sitting your ass in a hard chair and all you're seeing is a projection in front of you on the wall? That was the first time I had ever reflected on my life and thought of everything that I knew is real and was like, holy fucking shit, I think I'm in a cave and all I'm seeing is projections on the wall. And it scared the living hell out of me. But there was one thing that, like, I went through this long 10-year process, actually, trying to figure out what truth was. Like, needing to keep on going, and I was guided by curiosity. You know, just like, what is true? I gotta find out, because holy crap, when that foundation cracked, it was dangerous. In fact, I'll be honest, the first time I was looking for different things, when I was stepping outside the cave, so to speak, I wanted to like rebuild that cave, rebuild that foundation that was cracked. I wanted to prove that it was right. I wanted to prove what I knew was right. And it just kept going down, one thing led to another, and it didn't end up where I thought it was going to, and that is leaving my religion. And so that was fairly recent, actually. I quit my day job 4 years ago to pursue my calling of being an entrepreneur and speaking, starting a couple businesses and stuff like that. And it's only been 2 years since I actually left the religion. And I share all of this with you to kind of just give context to where I come from. Because when you're stepping into anything new, I think you're going to feel like a fish out of water at times. That's how I've been living my entire life. Feeling like I've never done this before, it's learning it for the first time. And when there was that day that I found out that I was $53,000 in debt and a new baby on the way, I got mad, I got angry, because I realized I had already had this whole thing with my whole reality. And so the first thing I did, that I think is a very logical thing to do, I blamed. Boy, did I blame, because I was fucking pissed. I was pissed at my family because I didn't get taught about money. My family was very poor, and that's how I ended up in 53 grand in debt, right? Like, how else did I do it? But then I did something else that I think is the next step if you're gonna make your influence and your impact on the world. I took radical responsibility for who I was and where I was. That is so critical for anything that you want to change. You can't say, well, I want the best relationship in the world, but I'm great at relationships. I have no part to play in any of my breakups, right? It just doesn't work. If you want the best body in the world, hate to break it to you, you can't just say, you know what's my fucking genes, that I lost it. That's what I said too. By the way, one thing that was mentioned is I was 50 pounds heavier. This has been other things that I've added to this, ended up running a 50-mile ultra marathon and stuff like that. So I've been trying to decode and deconstruct what we can actually do and what's actually possible. So when I took that radical responsibility, I then started to scour everything I could around money and finances. Because with a baby on the way, I couldn't just not do anything now. And so I faced the radical awareness that I was 53,000, and then I freaking dug deep, but I couldn't just learn anymore, right? Because have you guys noticed what happens when you just learn? What happens to your life or your results when you just learn it? Right, not much, right? You're kind of close to the same place. You watch that YouTube video, it's motivational, you're like, huh, feel better now. I'm gonna go get a Starbucks, you know? Like, that's kind of how it goes. But I didn't have that luxury, so I started trying shit and changing the way I did my finances. And I ended up coming across this thing that I now call prosperity loop. And prosperity loop is something that anybody can get into that I believe is the key to prosperity. Now, why am I a big fan of prosperity? Well, I believe, especially people in this room, but in general, I believe people in general are generous. I've seen it. Like, so many people, they want to do good for other people. And I know that if you have an impact to make in the world, if you can become more prosperous, if I can help more people become more prosperous, they will be more generous. That prosperity will lead to generosity. And so I become so dedicated to figuring that out, and not just making money, you know, but getting into a place where you're solid. It's not about volume, it's about what you're doing with it. So what I want to share in the give some action items here, if you're taking any notes, is like something you can do to actually get into prosperity loop. And by the way, can you just help me on time? I don't know how long I've been up here. I want to see how much time I have. What? 10 minutes before? Okay, sweet. So I'll give something very brief, and then something that Antoine and I came up with is events are awesome. We all have gifts to share with the world, yes? We all have something, an impact we want to make. And sometimes as entrepreneurs and creatives, we don't do a really good job of sharing that. And one thing that we wanted to do is not just lead people here, but actually give something to take you deeper if you choose to. So at the end of my talk, I'll give something that you guys can take to go beyond to help your finances even deeper. But right now, I want to briefly give you some core concepts that anyone can take right now to start getting into prosperity. So it's actually just a very simple thing to understand. It's not about how much money you make. This might blow people's mind. It's not about how much money you make. Not at the beginning. It doesn't start there. A lot of people thought that if I just make more money, then they're chasing the wrong problem. And what's cool is we have a lot of data that shows this now. Have anybody ever heard what happens to lottery winners within like 5 years? How many people thought it'd be cool to win the lottery? Right? We all think it. I bought just for fun, the last Powerball that they had in the States like a year ago was insane, like over $1 billion, right? Most people that win the lottery within 5 years go broke. Millions of dollars. It's insane. And even smarter people, like people that leave the NFL. True football. You guys have true football here? I don't know. They go broke. Within 3 years, a big percentage of them file bankruptcy. So it doesn't begin with how much money you make. And this was such a cool realization when I got that. Wanna know why? Because I didn't think I was making that much money. for whatever reason, we're really good at getting right here. Like this is our finances and it also represents water, and we get our nose is like barely above it. Can anybody relate to this? It's like barely above it, and then all of a sudden sometimes we dip under and like, and then kick from the bottom and get back up, right? And so I went through that entire process and then broke the getting into prosperity down into 3 simple P's. And I call them prepare, protect, and place. So if you're taking notes, those are the 3 things you're going to want to write down. Prepare, protect, and place. So what is prepare? Where did prepare come from? Prepare came from, how I learned about this was, I was doing better with my finances, I had a budget and was doing all this right things. And then life came and did what it does, because life's always perfect, right? Especially when you make a plan. It always goes according to plan every single time without fail, right? Yes, exactly. Every time. So I had this perfect laid out plan, and then one day on the way to work, bump, my car, its tire got blown. And so I blew a tire. And no big deal. So I went to the repair shop thinking it would just need a patch. Like, actually your tires are horrible. All of them are horrible. You need all new tires. Right? Kind of kicked me off my rocker. It was like, but I was going so good and this came out of nowhere. How am I going to pay for this? Well, I didn't have the money right then to pay for it. And so it's like, how am I going to pay for this? And I was like, when did I actually get tires last? It's actually been well over a year. Man, I wish that God, the universe, or somebody could just say, this is when this is going to happen, because it wouldn't hurt this bad if I just put a little bit of money towards this for when things come up. Because I'm going to start making payments anyway. Why couldn't I do it before? And then I was like, why couldn't I do it before? So that's what preparedness is. Some people call it an emergency fund. For whatever reason, we are so good at preparing in a lot of other areas of our life. I'm from Salt Lake City. Mormons are huge with food storage. They're preparing for the apocalypse. It's coming. In California, like many people brought a jacket tonight, even if the weather's good. Right? And it's kind of chilly. In California, they even have roofs on their house. I don't know why. I mean, the weather's perfect all the time, right? But why do they? Because it's going to rain at some point. So the very, very first step to getting anything in place is to have preparedness. It's so silly. Like when you hear some of these things, they're like, dude, that makes sense. Wait till you do it. Because things get really crazy when you actually implement. So the first thing is preparedness. A good rule of thumb, a lot of experts agree, is just to begin by opening the account, like literally just open up the account that you call preparedness or emergency fund, and start with your first goal to collect 1,000 US dollars or Canadian dollars, whatever you choose, and start getting that little buffer up. Because here's the thing, it's not a matter of if it's going to rain, it's a matter of when. And I don't know if anybody here's heard of Dave Ramsey. He's like a big finance name in the US. One thing that I love that he says is, you're protecting yourself against Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law states that if something bad can happen, it will. But when you are prepared, it is also Murphy repellent, which is weird. So not only are you prepared if and when Murphy does come, he actually shows up less often, right? It's almost like if you move across from the state or from one side of the country to another, your mother-in-law wants to come or whatever. If you don't have an extra guest bedroom, she wants to come like crazy. You finally get a bigger place that has a mother-in-law quarters and she never comes. It's like one of those things, like you can scare it away just by getting it, right? So preparedness, that's the first P. The second P is, okay, what do I do? Prepare, protect. So protect, what does this mean? This is where everything that I teach goes the most radical in my programs. I remember when Antoine first went through one of my programs, we went back and forth on the chat and was like, dude, am I really supposed to set up my accounts this way? So let me help it make sense, because it's going to be the most radical thing you've ever done with your finances, and it's going to work. Imagine I'm holding a pail of water. And in this pail of water, there's a hose with water going into the bucket. And in this pail of water, there's also holes at the bottom of the bucket, and water is leaking out. If I were to ask myself, if I was looking at this and said, how much water is actually leaving? this bucket? I actually couldn't answer that. Why? Because there's water going in and water going out. The only thing I could actually ever measure would be like the fluctuation of the water in the pail, right? Like maybe if the flow of the water was slower, more is leaking out, right? But I couldn't actually see how much, couldn't feel how much was actually leaving. Here's a confession I have. This bucket is a physical diagram of what my checking account looked like, right? I had money going in and these leaks all over. And I kind of knew I had stuff like rent, that's a leak. I knew I had credit card payment, that's a leak. And I had all these leaks, but I didn't really know. The only thing I knew was how much was in at that time. And that's how I made all of my money decisions. How much is in the pail right now? But you don't actually ever perceive how much money you actually have if you are operating at a one-way checking account. And so I was like, holy shit. And then of course, this is where problems really happened was I would go buy something or one day just get letters in the mail and I get a bank letter that looks different because it's out of a different time from when I should get bank statements. And I open it up. I don't know if anybody's ever gotten this letter before, but guess what it said? Overdraft. It's like, what? How do I have an overdraft? Right? And so I was like, how cool would it be? How cool would it be if when I looked in my income account, I knew that was money I actually had? What if I could actually have 0 leaks in my money? So I literally felt it. Guess what? You can have that. And it's actually really simple. And at the very first, it sounds like, is that going to be easier? This is all it's doing. We're operating out of one checking account, one bucket. Do this. Two checking accounts. So let's talk about what they do. The first one is your income account. That's where money goes into. That you are just going to decide from this point moving forward that you will never have any automatic payments that come from your main income. That bucket should be protected. Protected from, like, it's crazy how many people have access to your money. If I were came into here and said, do you know how many people have access to your bank account right now? Most people would be like, none, unless I'm getting freaking hacked by somebody, and that'd be scary. Actually, there's a lot of people that can dip in there right now, and we don't even really know it. And so what are they? All these people that we set up automatic payments on. But the problem is, even though we kind of feel it, we know because we set it up, we don't really feel what's happening with our money. And so what you do is in that second account, I call it my outflow. That outflow account is where you put money for all of your automatic payments. When you put money in that, it's just considered gone money for that specific thing. For example, if you have an automatic rent or mortgage payment, it goes into that account. So now you have awareness on your money because you know that anything in that outflow account is money that, as far as you're concerned, is gone money. It's already spent. My credit card payment's in there, my other payments are in there, it's in that account. Also, anything that you see in your income account, you know is no fluctuation. You know it's money you can actually do something with. Are people still with me so far on this? Yes? Okay. So, again, this is crazy. And it works. Because people, here's the other benefit, or the other consequence that people usually don't have, or don't recognize at the front of this, is you have money leaks that you have no idea you have. One of my favorite things is when my students set up this piece, because they're like, holy shit, I had this money leak that I had no idea, because you don't perceive it, because it's in the same account. One of my students last year, and I'll show you him a little bit later, it's fun. Now, no judging, promise me no judging on this. He was my favorite student named Dallas. He did this exercise and he found out he had a little bit of a money leak. Guess how much money he was leaking a month? Just throw out a number, just some random number. What's that? 1,500. Anything else? $7,000. Right? $7,000. Now, he is an entrepreneur, like many people. And I know many of us want to get to the point where we're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, to the point where we get to be a millionaire status, right? He's on his way. Here's the thing. The percentage of leakage to the amount of income wasn't that big. So it was Again, the fluctuations are just happening. He's making anywhere like 40, 50, 70, $80,000 in that account. Seven's easy to miss. It blew his mind. We have this all over. So that one thing's gonna protect you like crazy. This is what it's like. One last example on this that I give to keep it kind of gnarly. Imagine you got stabbed and you're bleeding. It's kind of dangerous, right? You need to go to the hospital, right? But let's up the ante. What if you got stabbed, you're bleeding, and you don't even know it because the blood's invisible? That is what was happening to mine and 70+% of people's checking account. So I just tell you that's the benefit that it gives you. It plugs those leaks. That is protect. You're protecting your main income. Now, I lied to you. Unfortunately, I told you that protect was the most radical idea. It's not. It's pretty radical, but once you get the hang of it, it makes sense to people. They're like, oh, I can protect my income, and I know if there's what I'm seeing is money I can actually do something with. The most radical idea is something that I call place. Place is transcending budgeting. Budgeting of tomorrow will go away forever. And people that incorporate place are going to be the rulers of making the greatest impact on this planet. So what is place? Placing, as radical as it sounds, is taking all of your money and spending it all at once. The title of my TEDx talk was How to Get Out of Debt by Spending Money. And it's because of this thing. Taking the money that you now have in your income and spending it all at once. So what does that actually mean? What does it actually mean to spend it? You're saying I'm spending it? Yeah, what you're doing is you're taking the money that you now know you have, what's in that income. When you're looking at your income account now, you know that you're taking care of on your automatic payments. All of those are going with the outflow. You know that that's money you can't touch, right? And so now you're looking and making decisions based on your income. What's left? And your job is to take every dollar and put it somewhere for some specific thing. Why does this work so freaking well? Because money, number one, is slippery. And when we don't give our money something to do, it slips through our fingers and finds a new owner. And I'll give you a little quick story that I think maybe somebody has heard that will tie all this together. Has anybody ever heard of the marshmallow experiment? It was done at Stanford University. So in the 60s and 70s, Stanford did this thing known as the marshmallow experiment. They brought cute little kids in and as test subjects, and they were given a marshmallow in front of them. And they were given a choice. They could eat the marshmallow right then, but if they waited, then they would get 2 marshmallows. And it was a real fun experiment because it showed us human behavior. Most kids freaking down that first one. They couldn't wait, right? Not like we're not like that, right? But there were some kids that waited and they got 2. They got the reward. Then researchers went up one other layer. They're like, what if we could follow up with these kids into adulthood, and would there be a difference with how they behaved and acted in life? What they found was freaking staggering. Because it turned out the kids that waited and got 2 marshmallows, in every metric, in academics, in relationships, in mental health and happiness, they performed higher in every single area. I'm talking their relationships lasted longer, they were less likely of being divorced, they were less likely to be on antidepressants or being addicted to alcohol, and, shocker, they were doing better financially. Why? So when people hear that, they're like, oh, it's because they had awesome willpower. You know, they can say no. Here's the key to all of prosperity. And kernel down to this one thing. When people get to the point of place, they're usually going to ask, well, with this money that's left, how much should I put towards food over the next, between now and the time I get paid next or make money next? How much should I put towards food versus fuel versus this event I want to go to? And they're asking all these questions of how much they should put towards these things. And when you ask those questions, congratulations, because you have arrived. That is the prosperity loop. Because what those children did, when you ask the data and what the adults did, is they had the habit of making the best decision holistically and for the long term. What placing forces you to do is give every dollar a what? A purpose, a job, something to do. But what it also does is it's doing the best thing for the picture, for the whole thing. Instead of right here in this isolated moment when I'm having this urge for Starbucks, I'm gonna buy that. Not saying you shouldn't buy Starbucks, you freaking should. In fact, when you're doing your placing, many people say you should have what I call FU money, and all these things that you can blow guilt-free. That's what this does. And so that's the formula. That's setting it up. And the cool thing is it's something that every single person can do. And it's not just saying, invest in this thing, have this cool thing. What is it doing? It's getting to the freaking core, the thing that actually fucking matters. And I think I mentioned it, but just in case I didn't. I was in debt after I got deadly serious and said, I'm going to fix this. I was going to get out of debt in 12 years. That's if I stopped digging. That was my debt-free date was 12 years. I got out of debt in about 2. So I saved a decade by doing this. Because you're developing the habit. Go for it, please. Stop it. Stop it. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Tony Robbins, but there's this funny guy that does the event with him named Joseph McClennan, and that's what he does. It's like, stop it. Like he actually was doing that. I did it wrong. He was doing like, oh, stop it. So I appreciate the love. So here's the final thing of why this is such, why I'm so passionate about this. Steve Jobs, I think, said it best. We're all, there's other people that are not here on a Friday night in this room, right? There's people out there right now that are just getting wasted or playing video games or smoking weed now that it's legal, right? Nothing wrong with that, do it. But you chose to be here tonight on a Friday night, Saturday, holy shit. Sorry, traveling a little bit too much. Saturday, you get out your drinking already last night. Makes sense now. But you're spending your time to make yourself better and to improve, and that is different. And I know why you're doing it. Why are you doing it? Because I believe that if you're in this room, you have an impact to make. And something that Steve Jobs said that helped me early on in my journey was watching a YouTube video where he said, when you look around you, and your life will never be the same when you realize this one simple fact, that everything you see in this room or outside of here was made up by people that are no smarter than you. And that you can make your difference in the world. You can change things. You can mold it. You can improve upon it. You can make your own things for other people to use. That light bulb went off to me because I was just some polit kid, as they called us, that had no future and was just going to stay in that bubble. And I knew that if he's saying this, that means I have a shot. And so I believe every single person in here has some difference to make. And something that I also believe, besides the fact that prosperity breeds more generosity, I also believe that when good people make good money, great things happen. And that's what I hope this helps you do as well. So with that, thank you very much. One last thing. So, I have something for you. So, again, when Antoine and I were talking about this, we were trying to find out, okay, what's something that we can give people that's a foundation, anybody can take it, and then also, if they wanted to go further and deeper and get it actually set up, they could do it. Does that sound cool with you? Yeah? Yes. So I want to help you make that difference. So this is what this is all about. And so here's a couple people. So what you're going to see on here these are students that have gone through the whole process that I just showed you how to actually install it and stuff like that. So here's my friend Heather based in Southern California. So I freaking love her. She actually, it says paid off 3 cards. It's actually 5 now, and I'll take this. So this was just a few months ago, but she's completely shifted her relationship with money and paid off 3 credit cards within a few weeks. This was the guy that was $7,000 every single month. His name's Dallas. So this is why he says what he says. I was blown away. I honestly didn't think it was going to do anything. But then after setting up my money the right way, following it the way it should, he reduced his debt by more than 60 grand in 2018 alone. The program is simple and massively effective. If you have a chance to implement it, you're nuts not to. Thanks, Dallas. And then Ezra. Ezra's close to my heart because he actually grew up in the same environment I did. And he has multiple moms as well. Not quite 45 kids, but siblings, but still. And what it did for him is something that I love what it does with a lot of people. It gave him peace of mind and control and focus on making more money. Because again, with the productivity thing, if you have all these worries, it's hard to make more. But if you believe in the universe, and like I do, like you believe in abundance, what's really cool is when you give a foundation and you give something solid, I think of it as a way of like showing the universe is like, I'm a freaking vessel, come through me now, it's not gonna leak. Did that with him. He went from $300 short every week to made an extra $7,000 in the next month alone. So it was his first $10,000 month, and I was just talking with him earlier this week, and he said he's had multiple, he's at like 15 grand right now. He's had multiple $10,000 months since then, so freaking awesome. So what is this? Something that I've not announced yet to any other stage, but I'm doing it right here in Montreal, Canada. Thank you. Mom, appreciate that, Mom. Thank you. So, what is this? This is Prosperity Loop, the boot camp. So this is based on my TEDx talk, but it's a 6-week program that the entire thing, what I wanted to do when I created this is, what can I do to take all these principles and just walk people through it? Let me tell you what this is by first telling you what it is not. It is not theory. The boot camp is just that. It is action. It is do this. The very first thing is getting freaking real. What's your current financial situation right now? And just going deep, because that's how you're gonna get the result. It's not just giving the fluff, it's like take this action right here in really short videos of like 5 minutes, consumable over a 6-week period. So that's what it is, purpose-driven finances for purpose-driven entrepreneurs and people that wanna create influence. So what are you gonna get? So here's several main concepts that are coming with it. A step-by-step guide to starting right, to getting on the right foot. Debt destruction and setting up for Murphy. Do you remember me mentioning Murphy's Law, right? If stuff can happen, it will. So it's designed to get you in the right frame so that you're protected from Murphy. Concept 3, making the switch. So from where you actually are to being completely different, setting up your finances that's from poor-based things to prosperity-based. Concept 4, secret systems of the successful. So this is one of my favorite things too. I'm going to share exactly how I place my money, how I mentioned the placing, and what other successful people do. Exactly like what to do first. Has anybody ever heard of the concept like pay yourself first, right? What a concept. So in this, we're going to show like the exact systems that when you are placing, where should the monies go first? No matter how much you have, what are the things that should actually happen first? And I have everything of the value, that's a total value of like $3,900. And this is for this event only. So who is it for? When I was designing it, I wanted to be for entrepreneurs. Why? Because there are people that are making change. And I wanted people that if it's helping them, it's gonna help other people. Also people that maybe have struggled to make something stick before, because this is designed to be simple and easy to follow. Also, if you're looking to make more money so that you can make more impact. If that's what you're going for, then that's somebody that I want to help. So again, this is what you're going to get. Everything here, total value of this. A couple bonuses for this. Here's some of the things that make this stick. The first thing, we call ourselves very proudly money maniacs. So why are we money maniacs? Because to do this crazy stuff, just like Steve Jobs has coined phrases like you gotta be the crazy ones, that's kind of our version of crazy ones. We become money maniacs that are in the community that stick together and make us actually hold each other accountable and do what we say we're gonna do. And so that is a bonus that's coming into this for the first 10 people only. And then you get a second bonus in this that I call Make It Manifest. What Make It Manifest is this is an extra piece at the end of the program that's like, now that you have the foundation in place, how can you vision set, dream set, and now plan to make more money? Because once you have that in place, then it can come. So that's a bonus that comes included as well. So again, all of the concepts as well, plus the first bonus of Money Maniac Community, the bonus 2 of Make It Manifest, $5,400 value. And I mentioned this before, so I just wanted to put it here again, is like the focus. This is my core belief with Prosperity Loop. People are naturally generous. Call me idealistic, but if you help someone become more prosperous, that prosperity will then spread into more generosity. And that's the spirit that I want people that come through the program to do. So if all this did was help you get out of debt, this is kind of my thing, would it be worth it? Like, if you became free now, would that be something that would be useful? Or if all this did was deepen one kick-ass relationship, because we have a lot of awesome people and you're gonna meet really cool people, like just like this, if you have a couple people to take it with you, in that relationship, what can one relationship do? Or if you change one other person's life because you were able to now have freedom and peace of mind to pursue your passion, would that be worth it? Or if I shaved off 10 years, if all I did was shave off 1, 5, or 10 years of your financial learning curve, would that be worth it? Right? So that's why I have the value set as over $5,000. And for the general public right now, I just launched this, it's $19.97. But because you're here at Influencers Unite, dun, 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 if you enroll today, it's just $9.97. And so what you gotta do if you want to enroll, again, this is for the first 10 people, because I know some people in the right spot, that's cool. And just for the people that are ready, go to calvinwayman.com/IU for Influencers Unite, okay? So that's what you'll want to do, is go to calvinwayman.com/IU. And there's one more last thing that I wanted to do here. And this is something that you'll like this. And you'll want to, so somebody was asking me earlier if I do coaching and stuff like that. I've been blessed to be on over 100 podcasts in the last 4 years that I quit my day job, sharing my story, and also sharing like how I wrote my book, how I got into speaking, how I started my businesses. And because of that, I've had people come to me and ask for coaching. And at first I said no, because I was in the middle of building my businesses and traveling, I didn't have time. And so, but after I had a few people come and ask me, I finally said, yes, I'll do something called a VIP day. And a VIP day was something where I would sit with people for the afternoon, all day, to just make the strategy of how they're gonna grow their business. Go from this to this. Sometimes we would install finances and stuff like that. If we give a strategy on how to launch their business, how to get into speaking and stuff like that. And my VIP day, just to be transparent on numbers, was $5,000. And so I said that with you because I was doing VIP days for a while. I'm no longer doing them. So even if somebody came to me, I'm no longer doing them with everything I have going on. But what I wanted to do to stay into the spirit of what this event is, and to stay with what Anton's doing, when we wanted to create this, is I'm doing private weekly coaching with me, the $5,000 value, with the program completely included for free. Cool? So that's going to be for the first 3 people that do that. So again, that's going to be 4 weeks of coaching. The whole program itself is 6 weeks. The first 2 weeks, it begins on June 3rd. And the first 2 weeks is just you going through the videos so that you're focused on that. And then after you've done through videos, after you've seen it, you and I and the other couple of people that are in there will do weekly coaching for a full month. Stuff on this, making sure it's getting in there, having me with you for a full month to make it actually happen. Cool? So that's what it is. Not the regular price, just $9.97, calvinwayman.com/IU. And the main point I have here is with Ezra, the reason he felt so close to me is he grew up literally in the same religion that I did. And he was somebody that came to me after he did it, and he was like, honestly, I barely had anything to do it, but because I did it, I'm now able to like flip houses. He just barely said, honestly, I actually had a $90,000 month last month. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? 90 grand, what'd you do? He's like, I just flipped a house. It's like, that's insane, that's awesome. And so that's the type of stuff that I want to help people do. So this is what's next. If this sounds interesting to you, calvinwayman.com/IU. Just one last time, because I know some people ask, okay, show me what you're getting. You get the step-by-step to starting out right, the debt destruction to become free, the making the switch from what you're currently doing to the new way, secret systems of the successful. You get access to the Money Maniacs community. It's a Facebook group. The Make It Manifest, how to make more coming in. and of course, the private coaching with me as well. Total value of over 10K and just $9.97 today only. Cool? So, I want to say one more time for being here for my first ever Montreal visit. Thank you guys so much for having me.